Hi, how are you doing today, Loretta?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, I'm so happy. I feel like you have built such an amazing company, amazing medical facility, and I want you to tell us a little bit about that. And then I really respect your opinion on some of these things that are happening in the medical slash beauty industry, and I just really want to get your take on some of these crazy thoughts that I've been having about this lately and how culture is having an effect on the way people look at it themselves, but particularly young people. So tell us a little bit about your business and how you got where you're at now.
So, I'm Loretta Zanetti, and I'm a nurse practitioner. I've got a med spa here in Tampa, Florida, and we really focus on laser treatments as well as injectable treatments designed to help people look good as well as feel good too. The genesis of the business was really tattoo removal. That's kind of where we started. I did about 18 years in the military, and as I was,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. It was a great career, and it really kind of set me up for the rest of my life or the next stage of my life. I was trying to figure out what I was going to do, leaving the military and kind of embarking on my civilian career. And it turns out that there's quite a few people who are looking to remove tattoos. And so the genesis of it was that as I was leaving the military, a lot of my friends who had left were trying to get back in. And the tattoo regulations had changed. And so that meant that people who used to serve, who wanted to serve again, couldn't do it.
Crazy.
And it didn't really make sense. It kind of went from, you can have arm tattoos as long as it's covered to you can't have anything from the elbow down. This happened around 2014, and regulations changed with entry into the military all the time based on the needs of the military.
That makes sense. Oh, that part makes sense. So you're changing because you're trying to reduce a certain population, and you've got to think of some criteria to do it, I guess.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so for people who maybe even had tattoos that were in the military at that time, I had a difficult time getting back in. And so the whole idea of offering tattoo removal as a service to help prior service veterans get back into their military careers is really kind of where we started.
I think because people so much more commonly have tattoos, they might more commonly change their minds. I'm sure that even though this has become much more acceptable, it doesn't diminish the need for your services, right?
That's exactly right. So, 25 years ago, which doesn't seem like that long ago, but tattoos were a little bit more taboo. You thought, okay, maybe it's a sailor, maybe it's like, a gangbanger, like a biker dude. But nowadays, tattoos are an acceptable way to express yourself. Everybody has tattoos. It's actually 1 in 4 Americans have tattoos. So the more people who are getting them, that means there's more people who are changing their minds about it. And so, yeah, it allowed us to grow in a field that was kind of a niche field that's becoming more and more popular.
And would you just find people change their mind or, change their motivation or, who normally comes in now for the tattoo removal?
So it's really a very wide range of people who come in. It could be that mom who 10 years ago during her sorority days decided to get a really cute tattoo, maybe on her lower back as it was in at the time. And now,
Stamp.
yes, that type of stamp. And then maybe they have kids now. And she's like, you know what? This tattoo doesn't represent me anymore. And I don't know if I want my kids to see it, Or it could be as simple as someone who gets a ring tattoo that's also quite popular, who may be going through a divorce and, no longer wants to have that ring tattoo, or people who get names of other people on their bodies. There's many different reasons. Sometimes people just want to get rid of old work and then replace it with new work, with maybe a better tattoo or something
I can imagine that. I mean, I don't want to wear the same eyeshadow every day. You might want to change after a certain amount of years.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Trends change. Even eyebrows change, which is kind of a popular treatment right now. People get their eyebrows microbladed. In the 80s, very, very thin eyebrows were in. We kind of plucked the heck out of them. And then nowadays, thicker, fuller eyebrows are in. And so when we have them microbladed with a certain style, that style may change, your face may change. And so we remove them so they can be redone.
So when you get out of the military, you started with this niche, and how did it grow into everything else? Because you have a beautiful, thriving business.
Thank you. So we thought it was just going to be tattoo removal. But once patients got tattoos removed, they would kind of look at the laser and say, so does that thing remove hair as well? It unfortunately doesn't. But because I had so many people who assumed that it did, it told me that I had a group of patients who were looking for another service that I could potentially offer. So the next thing that we brought on board was laser hair removal. We had to purchase another device in order to do that. With laser hair removal, automatically things like Botox and filler kind of get added into it. And so what I found is that I want to be able to offer people the best of everything. And so that's how we slowly have brought on each service. We're a staff of about 10 people now. We offer probably somewhere between 15 to 20 different services. It's kind of just slowly grown over time based on what our patients tell us they're interested in and what they need.
So I do want to get into one other subject, but I have to say, just a comment, one thing that really was interesting to me, because I don't believe that in any profession, like I see lawyers who never do any continuing education, and they just think this is the way it is and this is the way it should be. They're never open to learning new things. Every time I turn around, I feel like you're heading off to LA or this or Vegas, or this. You're always doing something new to learn a new technique, to learn a new technology, to be cutting edge. I find that very impressive. And I can't imagine doing any of these things at a party after having 3 glasses of wine with a random person and not going to the place where a medical person is. I mean, you are a nurse practitioner, right? And you worked very hard to be a nurse practitioner. So I can't imagine not doing, I can't imagine not doing that with, I can't imagine doing that without knowing that this is a medical person.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Not looking at this person's, resume or having any idea who's working on my face.
Yeah, absolutely.
Insane.
And that's one of the unfortunate things about this industry is that it can sometimes be viewed as a maybe just a beauty treatment, like getting your hair done. But it's a lot more complicated than that. Yes, there is artistry involved in it, 100%. But there's a lot of science that goes into it too, as well as medicine. And so you always want to make sure that you have a provider that is staying on top of it, because medicine changes all the time. We're constantly learning new things. And I try to follow this adage, and I don't know who to give this quote to, but I always want to be better today than I was yesterday. And then tomorrow, I want to be even better than I was today.
I have a shirt like that.
Do you? I need that shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's encouraging to me.
Yeah.
But you're right. I have not heard anybody use that analogy, but it's 100% true. People are treating Botox, and they're treating, and I'm not even going to go to body surgery, but they're treating, filler and Restylane. They're treating it like it's a hair treatment. Mm-hmm. And it is not. I mean, you can have a lot of repercussions if you have your face in the wrong person's hands. Mm-hmm. So I would want to be with a medical professional like you, who's up on the current technology and who's practicing it and all that. I have to ask you this, though, because I have a 20-year-old daughter. She's strong. She's a strong girl. She's going to be a strong woman one day.
Well, look at her mom.
Well, yeah, we do have a lot in common, me and her, but, we're watching Love Island together. All right. And yes, I like all of this. Okay. I like the British one better than the American one. Fine.
Guilty pleasure.
Oh, absolutely. Totally. People criticize this, but yet to the certain same people who romanticize Marilyn Monroe in the 50s. I mean, this is escapism. Hello.
Sure.
I see horrible things all day long at work as a personal injury lawyer. I see people, just every bad thing that you can think of that happens, I'm exposed to it.
Yeah.
So I need to get home and escape a little bit. And when I'm watching this program, like, everybody's lips look the same. They look like fish. They look like, I think the term's blowjob lips. Just saying, that's the term. They're looking for this look. Everybody looks the same, and everybody looks overdone. I don't know medically what's happened to the top of their lip, but it doesn't have any definition anymore. Mm-hmm. And then I'm looking at my daughter who's sort of looking to culture and wants to look good. And she's got, beautiful lips. And I certainly don't want her or any female to feel like you have to look a certain way.
Absolutely.
And then, I see people at work who are going to, who want to look this way, and they're going to parties and getting their lips over. To me, it looks like overfill. There, and somebody's hitting a nerve. And it's just in Spanish there's this una bemba. When somebody has a bemba, they have like a big pouty lips. So what's too much? What's too young? I'm sure you see people who are kind of addicted to this. Like, how do you as a professional approach this topic?
So that's a really great question. And I think it's important for us to address that because we are seeing people who just look absolutely overfilled. We call it the alienization of America, where everybody starts to look exactly the same. The cheeks are super, super full. The eyes are really squinty. The lips look like fish lips. And then everybody starts to look the same. And we're going in the wrong direction with it. What I like to try to always keep in mind whenever I'm treating my patients is that I want to return youth back to the patient. I want to reverse the aging process. So there's a very definitive way that the body matures over time. You lose a little bit of bone structure in the face. The skin starts to become a little bit more lax. We lose a little bit of fatty tissue. And so if you understand scientifically how the body matures and ages, you can add those things back so that the face looks natural without taking it out of proportion. If you're not a skilled provider and you don't study these things, you're going to have a cookie cutter format. Everybody gets 1 mil of filler in the lips. Everybody gets 2 mils in the cheeks. You're not looking at the beautiful aspects of every single individual that's sitting in front of you. You're simply just putting the same thing in every face. And that's why everybody starts to look the same. When you look at this person, you're like, she doesn't have any wrinkles. She has really small pores, but what is wrong with her face? The brain is designed to recognize when something doesn't seem natural and when it doesn't seem right. That's when you've taken everything out of proportion. But if you look at that patient's face, you understand how they mature and you just replace what's slowly been lost over time in a very calculated and proportioned manner. You end up just making that person look and feel younger without looking like somebody else. If you haven't seen your friend in 10 years and you're like, whoa,
No, I know people that I feel bad because I feel like what's driven them to make these changes has to come from a place of not being happy with themselves. But I can barely look at them really because I mean, these are not my close friends, but they're people that I know, that I come into contact with just at work. But, I'm certainly not 25, so I can understand how it's funny because I didn't think I was pretty or I didn't like my face. I was always somebody who worked out. I was more comfortable with having a nice physique, but I was like, well, I didn't really like, but now I would sure like to have that face back as opposed to, being somebody's told me to date mature skin. I wouldn't slap them, but whatever. But I, now, and people used to get Botox and they'd say, no. But now, like the 30-year-olds are like, we're going to prevent having wrinkles. That culture's changed too. Mm-hmm. So how young is too young and how big is too big for the lips? Like what kind of standards do you kind of have internally for that?
Yeah. So, when I take a look at a person, the first thing I want to do is ask them, what is it that bothers you? And a lot of times people will say, well, I just look tired all the time. Or I just feel like my face is kind of falling. Those are clues to me that they are feeling like maybe their eyes look a little bit tired, or maybe they just feel like these right down here kind of bother them. So it allows me to help develop a plan that will replace volume that was lost, help tighten tissue that has become a little bit lax over time without changing the way that they look entirely. I really love with us that we have a whole arsenal of tools. I don't use the same thing for every single patient. So somebody who comes into me who has skin that could be tightened a little bit, lasers work great for that. Doesn't mean I'm reaching for a syringe and filling it.
Does it hurt? Does it hurt? Lasers?
It can hurt, but I've got things to make you comfortable. But yeah, there's a lot of different things that we can do to help reverse that aging process. You had asked me what age is too young. What it really depends on each individual person. Let's just say a young girl comes into me and she says that she wants some lips. Maybe
17.
17. Okay. So 17, I think universally, most of us would just say, absolutely not. Why would a 17-year-old need bigger lips? But I never say never unless I sit down and actually talk to someone and find out what exactly motivates them. So if you're a 17-year-old and you come in with your mom and you sit down and you tell me, maybe your circumstances that you had a cleft lip as a baby.
That makes sense.
And then it was repaired surgically. And now that lip functions the way that it's supposed to, but aesthetically it doesn't quite look even. Yeah. And you're going to school, maybe you get made fun of, it is affecting your confidence level. I would consider doing it for that patient because we are addressing something that could help her mentally and emotionally in a sense that she would feel like she is normal again and she wouldn't get made fun of. So that's a scenario that I might consider it. But let's just say this is a 17-year-old. She wants to enter a beauty pageant. Her mom is egging her on to do it. Absolutely not. Because first and foremost, it is important to me to make sure that I am taking care of this patient, mind, body, and soul. And what kind of message am I sending to a 17-year-old girl who feels like she has to have bigger lips just to be perceived to be beautiful? It's a very, very different scenario between the two. And so I would say the answer is that it depends on each individual person. And I would always consider based on what motivates that person. And so that's an example of the two. You were mentioning that once upon a time, it was very taboo to talk about your Botox treatments and whatnot. But nowadays, really everybody talks about it. It's kind of like sharing, oh, my girlfriend told me I should go to this place, or this is a really great injector. And it is about self-care and prevention. And so it all depends on that person's scenario. What is it that we're trying to achieve? Even things like laser treatments to help get rid of dark spots or melasma or pigmentation. We perceive that as doing it simply to feel good and to look beautiful. But the reality is that when you remove sun damage, you are actually making the skin healthier and you're decreasing your risk for skin cancer.
Oh, neat. Yeah.
Yep. So there's a lot of reasons to do some of these treatments that go beyond looking good and feeling good. It really is about skin health too.
So, like let's say if you had a daughter in her 20s, okay, and nobody's made fun of her and her face is very pretty and her lips are full because I had thin lips growing up and certainly it's not what I liked or wanted, but if you had a daughter with full lips and she's going to turn 21, so she can kind of do whatever the hell she wants to do, but kind of not because she has no money because she's gone. So like at what point, because it just, like I said, I'm looking at TV and the girls are talking and they're 23, they're 24. And their lips are all heat, and I don't even know what creates that situation where they don't seem to have a lip line.
It's what we call lip filler migration, when the filler moves from the lip and it kind of goes up into the upper portion of the lip and even further down, and so just becomes this kind of like projected shelf. And so the filler has migrated into areas that it's not supposed to go. Sometimes that's related to technique, sometimes that's related to anatomy, but that is what gives that appearance.
Because I do think something is being lost. Here's there's a lot of things, because I definitely think it's awful that everybody looks the same.
Yeah.
But I think it's just what you said. Like, they're treating this like you're getting a new hairstyle. And this is a medical procedure that even in the very best of hands has to have some risks. And it doesn't seem like they have any. I don't think in your early 20s you can really appreciate. I know that there are some people that can, but I don't know that they are appreciating all of these risks
Yeah.
at all.
Absolutely.
You know?
And I think that's why it's so important to go to someone who is going to provide holistic perspective. Let's just go back to the example of that 21-year-old who may or may not be your daughter coming in with you. I personally would sit down with her. My goal is to make you feel good and look good, but to make you look, to have you at your healthiest as well. You're 20 years old, you've got beautiful full lips. For me, the most important thing at that moment is to assure her that she is beautiful, that she's got gorgeous features. I can't make you look better than God made you. If over time you've lost some of those features and we need to replace some of those things, absolutely. That's what I'm here for. But I'm not here to turn you into somebody else or to make you look different. And so my personal opinion would be to try to get her to understand that she's beautiful. She's got gorgeous features. And perhaps talk about some other treatments that will make her feel good that isn't quite as invasive. Really good facials, skincare, doing things to kind of enhance your features without taking on that additional risk. And I would make sure that she understood all of those things too, because, she's going to be at the age where she can make her own money and make her own choices. And so it's important for her to take all of those things into consideration so she makes good choices for herself when she does have the ability to do it.
And she, to be clear, so I'm not in trouble with anybody in my family, she's not asked me about this or for this. It's just me as a mom trying to get ahead of the game and looking around and saying, gosh, she's watching this with me. Mm-hmm. She sees this. Mm-hmm. She has friends who have very full lips who have done the flip thing, and, they look different. Mm-hmm. They looked pretty before, and I'm not saying that they don't look pretty now, but it just, and you didn't need it. Yeah. They really, and I they're very young.
Absolutely. We are growing. Our kids are growing up in an environment that I personally feel is so much more challenging than what we went through because of the accessibility of social media, photos that are filtered, and we're not just talking about aesthetic procedures, the way that you dress, the way that you act, the way that you talk, all of those things are so heavily influenced by the outside. Whereas once upon a time, your family unit was your biggest influence, but now it's the entire world. So you have to make sure that you're always putting in those values, the things that are important to you, and constantly have that conversation about like, you're beautiful, that you don't need some of those things. This is the appropriate way to dress. Don't let that person make you feel less than you are. It's always around. And that's our job as moms, is to ensure.
It never stops.
It never stops. Absolutely. In any
20,
regard.
30, 40, it never stops. And we never stop worrying about things that may or may, it just looking around, man, they really hit me last night because I was like, why does every, and they're young, why do they all look the same in this way?
Yeah.
But, on the other hand, I know people who have enhanced their faces and they feel so much better. They look so much better. It's almost like a weight has been lifted off of their shoulders because it was something that they carried with them, something that they just didn't like every time they looked in the mirror. Mm-hmm. And they were able to fix it and look natural. So, so I mean, it's just like everything else. It's got its time and its place.
Yes, absolutely. There is nothing more rewarding to me to have someone come in and say, I walked in here and I just felt tired and I didn't feel like myself. I'm leaving now and I just feel great. And that is what we're going for, is that you feel like yourself again, that you feel good about what it is that you see in the mirror. And that's really what we're going for.
Well, I would bet, looking at the patient population and all the things that you guys are learning every day, that you're well into, exceeding probably even the expectations you guys had. I would bet. What all the things that you have done, because think about this, the 18 years in the military, and then educating yourself and the grind that it would take to, become a medical professional and then opening your own business. So a lot of different things. What do you think that you've been the most proud of?
Um, I I think that maybe creating the culture that I have at the business. I it has been a challenge over the years to find the right people and to create an environment where we are supporting each other and uplifting each other. It can be an industry that can be a bit cutthroat, as I'm sure yours is too.
Right.
And in our environment, having a team that is always there for each other and striving to be the best that we can be in every regard. And when we're not at our best, we can help to uplift each other to be the person that we want to be. I think that's probably my greatest accomplishment.
That's
and
huge.
and my biggest challenge too, because it hasn't always been easy. So preserving that is really very important. So I'm incredibly proud of that. Of course, I'm proud of my kids. I love my husband. Very proud of my time in the military too. But I do think that growing a team of people that support each other and our patients, and when people leave, they feel great about themselves, not just because of the treatments that we did, but because of the vibe that we gave off. That's really important to me. And that is how I want every person to feel when they leave our practice.
And I'm so in touch with what you're talking about, because being a lawyer, you learn how to argue the motions, and you certainly learn how to make a presentation to a jury and make them understand, what your client has gone through, etc. But nobody talks to you about the business side. Nobody educates you. So since 2013, I have had consultants, and I have attended classes, and I have read I don't know how many books. And the culture at work, and we spend more time at work, even now, okay, even now with remote and all that stuff, more time at work than we do sometimes at home. So it's part of it is that. Part of it is your own personal happiness to be with people that you know and respect. But part of it is the only way to share what you want to share with your patients, or my clients, is to make sure that everybody is on the same page as you are. And if they aren't on the same page, they're not throwing the love out there. They're not throwing the understanding. They're not doing things with talent. You can only do so much good in the world alone.
Exactly.
And you can't replicate it with other people, and you can't be the star of every show.
Yeah.
I when I started my business, people come in and say, thank you, you've made me feel this kind of way, and you've helped me, and you've done all this stuff for me and my family. I'd only want to, come back to you. Well, I can only help so many people.
That's
I can
exactly right.
train people. And I'm really blessed to have people, over 75% of the people who work at my office have been there greater than 10 years.
It's amazing.
That has been
amazing.
huge for me. I love these people. I love them. They are, I don't even deserve them. We've continued to educate everyone. And I think that people view, especially when you own a business, they view their employees as a cost and not as an investment.
Sure. Absolutely.
And I'm investing in my client's future every time that I take 3 hours on a Friday to talk to the intake people and throw up an x-ray and show them the difference between an x-ray and MRI so that they can then explain this better.
Yeah.
Throw up videos and try to make it interesting for them.
It's a labor of love.
It is a labor of love. And having them treat each other, it's like having another family, because sometimes it's like having, wise people, but then sometimes it's like having kindergartners.
Absolutely.
So I have learned a lot about myself. I've learned a lot about the way to treat other people. Definitely, it's always a work in progress, but making a positive culture is about so many things, from making sure you don't have, I mean, I've struggled when you have the wrong person.
Absolutely.
Oof.
And it's even harder when they're close to you, because then how do you make that change?
Right.
Yeah.
No, that is even more difficult. But if you don't, then not only are they not happy, you're not happy. But then at some point, then the patient's not
Everybody's
happy.
not happy. Yeah.
So what's crazy about human nature is, if you have 10 people and you have a great person, everybody else doesn't go like, I'm going to be just as good as them. The same way that if you have 10 people and you have somebody who doesn't care, like, why does the negative spread like wildfire?
It really does. It's like a cancer.
It's like human nature's a little bit bad.
Agree.
Which is why we all are attracted to shit on social media before we're attracted to something positive or uplifting sometimes. But I think that people who care about making a better culture and care about continuing to educate themselves and their team, you know, who are in it to win that fight internally, I think that what they do for their clients and their patients is just like head and tails above the rest. Because I don't know that many medical professionals or doctors are so concerned about the environment. You know, sometimes we're just concerned with the bottom line.
Yeah.
And I think if you have great culture, that the bottom line just follows.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. And I love what you said about investing, you know, in your employees and investing in the culture in your business, because it really does, it is a sacrifice. It is a labor of love where you have to put your time and energy into it. It's not something that's just going to happen. You can't pay somebody from the outside to do it. It's got to come from you. You know, comes from the top, and then it kind of rolls down.
Yes, it does.
And it's not something that you can monetarily pay for. You have to put in your blood, sweat, and tears to create that. So,
And they have to know that people treating each other ill or treating the client ill, they have to know that that's not acceptable from you. The manager can say it, but it's got to come from you.
that's exactly right.
Well, one last thing that I have to say. You have children. How old are those children?
So my son is 20 and my daughter's 17.
And I never in a million years would have guessed that. So
Well, I will tell you.
are a product of, you're like your best advertisement, because you're beautiful and
Thank you.
You don't look crazy or weird or overdone. You just look young.
Well, I do like to use my face as an example. I'm not afraid to tell people I just turned 49 a couple of weeks ago.
Holy shit.
And it's really about taking the little things and just reversing the effects of time and not trying to make you into somebody else. And so every service that I offer, I have tried on myself first before I have elected to bring it on as a service in the practice. Myself and my business partner, Kristen, we both are very adamant about researching every single product or thing that comes into the office, and we are the guinea pigs. So if you look at me and you're like, I don't think she's had anything done, I have had everything done.
And the beauty of it is that I wouldn't have known that, because when I met you, I said, you probably are like half my age, right? And you're still younger than me, but I never would have ever guessed that, you know, you would be approaching 50.
Thanks.
So you are a shining example of everything that you've talked about, because there's nothing overdone. You're just like a younger, happy, well-rested, healthy person, which is what we all want, right?
Exactly. That's what we want.
Anyway, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah.
I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun.